Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another comic book spoiler review, and today I'll be covering the final solo X-Men story, Scarlet Witch. Man, the solo content has been like, I couldn't cover every member that's in the X-Men lore, but I did a decent amount. Tomorrow I will be doing my tier listing ranking of all the solo X-Men stories that I covered so far before I start getting into the team up books. And then once I'm done with all those, going from like at least the notable ones, like the first what's it called? What do you call that thing? The giant size X-Men going all, don't want to spoil much, but we'll start off with the giant size X-Men, which is kind of like the team first initial, notable team of the X-Men, going as far as to House of X and Powers of X, and that's where we'll be wrapping up. This almost like it's going almost like 3 month long process of X-Men canon. Already wrapped up all the movies. Well, after this video, I will be covering Dark Phoenix movie, and they'll be wrapping up all the movies. So you can go back and check up on all my reviews of those, which by the way has been blowing out like crazy. So thank you all who've been following me on this journey through some notable X-Men stuff. Then also the TV shows, those are that wrapped up at least a couple of weeks ago, so you can check out all those. So now I can just primarily focus on the comics. Next week I'll be getting back into normal movie content before the well, I want to cover at least a few Halloween, a few stuff before the Halloween season starts. There's 3 in mind. Probably, what's like, I might. We'll see how it shapes out. There's definitely a trio. It's almost like a trilogy in a way of movies I want to take care of, and one and then like an extra one. So at least 4 movies I want to do before I get into some Halloween type of reviews. And then as far as TV show is going on, I definitely want to cover, going over the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zaxo. I want to review that before I get into reviewing some stuff for the Halloween content. So the month of October, November, and December is going to be typically my busiest reviews. So certain stuff like chaotic lore videos are typically put on pause until the new year. I already did one so far. It should be up on my YouTube channel pretty soon, or if you're watching this on YouTube right now, it should be up as we speak. So yeah, I'm going on for a preamble right now. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get into Scarlet Witch in a minute, but yeah, this this has been like a definitely big journey. So anyway, Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. So we'll cover her powers, which should be fairly quick. And you know how devastating she can really be. If you watch Doctor Strange 2, she's freaking lethal, scary as all hell, hot as hell, but scary as all hell. And it also kind of ties into uh, my review of Dark Phoenix, where if a writer or a movie director in particular plays it right, you can make, mutants pretty freaking lethal, like horror film level of, like a slasher movie monster level of a threat if you push it in that particular way. And Scarlet Witch was, done exceptionally well by Sam Raimi. So here, Wanda Maximoff is a witch, powerful witch in her own right, capable of altering reality and probability by using chaos magic. She's skilled in witchcraft. Because technically she's a mutant, but just like Colossus' younger sister, her mutant ability gives her a better access to magical capabilities than it would be for anybody else who actually had to learn and grind to be as capable. Like we see with like Doctor Strange, how he had to train for a very long time before he became Sorcerer Supreme. Well, Wanda is able to, like, albeit, a little clunky at first, but she was able to, like, be more attuned to it. She has, chaos magic. Wanda's main power is the superhuman ability to manipulate the powerful magic known as chaos magic, a dark magic, which allows her to alter reality and control various forms of mystical energy. Wanda receives the blessing / curse of the god of chaos, Chthon, who came to her the day she was born, which will allow her to use his chaos magic as her own, and this will increase Wanda's natural ability to magic. Divine sources. Wanda Maximoff can tap and channel energies from other dimensions as well as mystical and non-mystical entities other than Chthon, such as Sidorak and Morrigan. She actually considered the very nexus being of the central universe of 616. Since Wanda is a nexus being, she acts as a living focal point for Earth's and other universe and her other universe's mystical energies, making her much more capable to harness and use various kinds of magic as she desires. Spells and phrases, knowledge of mystical spells and incantations. She was trained by Agatha Harkness. It was Agatha all along. Astral projection, binding, biological manipulation. Her sorcery allows her to manipulate the life on a cellular level as well as control all aspects of living creatures' biological makeup. For instance, Wanda can heal different kinds of injuries and wounds. She once tried to age Jennifer's gamma radioactivity until it's inert. She also has linked the Hulk and a bunch of other Hulks, allowing Banner to merge with them. After the upgrade in her powers, Wanda now can heal every injury in her body with ease. Bond manipulation, can manipulate and induce bond of others. She is able to strengthen the bond between the Blood Wrath or Wraith, and the Slorina itself to its boundaries as well as its people, tapping the Blood Wraith within the country. Chaos manipulation, clairvoyance, duplication, energy constructs, energy manipulation, energy absorption, energy projection, energy transferal, flight, force field, gravity decrease, illusions, invisibility, location tracking, magical awareness, mechanical manipulation, nature manipulation, elemental manipulation, weather manipulation, necromancy, non-physical interaction. Wanda has the power to allow her to affect and harm intangible beings such as ghosts, intangible demons, spirits, and the vision. Physical augmentation, Protection spell, purification, power manipulation, reality warping, scanning, scrying, soul manipulation, telekinesis, telepathy, empathy, fear inducement, teleportation, time manipulation, transmutation, witch sight, probability manipulation. Her powers, while beginning to unveil a higher potential, appear capable of prevailing against the master mystical power of Dormammu in his own dark dimension, which, when she and the Avengers fought against him for Avalon's evil eye, albeit indirectly by disrupting the energies of Dormammu and the eye. She has trained often at using her hexes to deflect projectiles or to cause enemies to stumble or otherwise suffer the effects of bad luck. This makes her one of the few Avengers that Ultron fears, as his adamantium shell cannot repel magic. Wanda can also project very powerful blasts, orbs, waves, and beams of hex energy for a different purpose. Abilities: aviation, intuition. She's skilled at piloting an aircraft. Dancing. Expert combatant. Is trained by Captain America, Hawkeye, and Mockingbird in physical hand-to-hand combat. Expert tactician and leadership. Horse riding. Meditation and yoga. This helps. You see this in one issue in this adventure that we'll be going over in a minute, where she helps, because knowing Wanda, and just like with Pietro, they have kind of some mental trauma, obviously, and so she herself does yoga to try to make sure she keeps a level head, and kind of it helps her at ease. Multilingual, she speaks not only English, French, and German, knowledge of Greek and Slovenian. Romani, Serbian, and Cantonese. Occultism, magical knowledge. She's an expert swimmer. Weaknesses: unknown anti-magic stone. While Wanda's magic can alter the fabric of reality itself, there is an unknown stone that is immune to her power. Further investigation revealed that it is similar to Mysterium, another anti-magic material, but not the same, and is of lesser quality. As this rock is dubbed Low Mysterium, presumably real Mysterium is also impervious to Wanda's magic. Little known facts: Wanda is a vegetarian and doesn't drink alcohol. According to Wanda herself, there are two other women that happen to share her name living in Manhattan. They sometimes get calls meant for each other. That's kind of funny. Charles Xavier has claimed that Wanda is unable to have children. You know, she has two boys, but through other weird means. Scarlet Witch is no longer considered a mutant, but in the age of X-Men, an alternate plane created by X-Men where everyone is a mutant, she is remembered as one. All mutants are born in hierarchies, or hatcheries. But Magneto and Jean Grey suggested that the X-Tracks might have an immensely powerful reality warping mutant like Wanda Maximoff. Nichiguro replied that hatcheries do not make Omega mutants anymore, implying she is considered an Omega level mutant in a world where she is seen as a mutant. But for all intents and purposes, in many people's consideration, Wanda and Pietro are technically mutants, you know, I guess mutants with an asterisk. Because certain writers, you know, like to, I want to say play fast and loose, but, you know, they ain't consistent, depending on, maybe not the writers, but the industry, comic book industry itself, whoever the head honcho is at the time, you know, they, for the longest time, they don't want like stay consistent with, are they mutants? Are they not mutants? You know, woo woo. And it's like, you know, they're just mutants. Point blank, period. You know, just not leave it up to confusion. Speaking of confusion, and not necessarily confusing in a way, but this art is, or this run was written by James Robertson, and there is an artist, Vanessa R. Del Rey, but here's the thing: she's not the consistent. She's there for maybe like the first issue and then the last issue, which I would have preferred, because I really like, because it almost look like those kind of those not stencil, but you know, kind of like pencil art in a way. It's almost like, you know, like you got like a blackish background and you color in the art. And I like, man, I really love this. But then they keep, each issue keeps switching to different artists. And I mentioned many times before through other comic book reviews that did this. It drives me crazy. I don't care if the other artist is just as good. I'm not knocking them. But if you hire an artist to come in to help the writer, and you know, I don't know how often they do this anymore, but you know, every once in a while they do this, and I do not like it. Stick with one artist with the writer that's doing a particular run. I mean, like, there are some exceptions to the rule, like if like the artist, like something happened and some other artists had to come and step in to fill in, sure. But in my opinion, I think they should stick with an singular artist, so that way it can stay consistent throughout the, you know, whatever how length of the run. But Wanda lives in Manhattan. This is around the time, if you remember, one of my first comic book reviews that I did for the channel, my first Doctor Strange review, which is the Last Days of Magic, where it was around also the same time when the first Doctor Strange movie came out, and they kind of bring up about like a cost to magic, and just trying to, which I kind of feel like that would have been a good handicap for magic users, because many people complain how, like, you know, magic users like Doctor Strange, Dr. Faye, you know, Wanda, Zatanna, Constantine, you know, they are magic users are considered way too OP for most people's liking, and most people can't get into them because all a character like that can do is just wave their hands and the problem is solved. And this kind of gives them some kind of handicap, just like with Superman, all powerful, but he has something like kryptonite or a red sun or magic that kind of brings him down to a mortal level. Magic users has a drawback. Whenever they cast a spell, there is some negative feedback. The smaller the spell, the smaller the feedback. Like in my Doctor Strange review, when you see like a little portion of the past where he's learning from the Ancient One, and all the magic he was using caused him at least during practice, caused him to vomit for a long time. And that's the thing he had to learn. Wanda, in her case, her drawback, and it's different for everybody, her drawback is that, she, starts losing years of her life, where she's going to start looking, older. And she usually have spells in order to keep up her youthful appearance. But the more magic she casts, then it goes right back in place, and pretty soon she's like losing years of her life. The bigger the spell, the more years she's losing. And then also she has her ghostly sidekick, Agatha Harkness, who died by Wanda's hands in a previous adventure or something. And this is what I'm talking about. I wish the art was like this all the way through. I saw this like, oh my God, I'm gonna love reading all through this. I'm just gonna love looking at this art. And they don't stay consistent with this art. And it's like, look at this. Look how good this looks. Oh my God. It's like, I love looking at this. Like, I wish I had like a poster like this. But it's not like there wasn't other good art, along the way, but this one's probably my favorite looking of the illustrations. But Wanda is, lives in like a high rise in Manhattan, and Agatha make some kind of like a joke, because Wanda makes a remark about how weird, like, she jokes so often. She never used to do that when she was alive, and it was like a different issue, but she made a point like, oh, I never did it around other people. And she even like often jokes about how like she liked to mess with Reed Richards a lot. In case you don't know, Agatha's first appearance was in like a Fantastic Four book, when it's something to do with him and Susan's son, who I'm not sure if it was during when he was a baby or when he was a toddler, and he started displaying abilities which at the time was considered a reality warping mutant, which I kind of wish they kind of retconned that back. I don't know why they retconned that for some god darn reason. But anyway, Agatha was first introduced when she met with the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four is pivotal in a lot of characters that we know from because since Marvel's first family, most of the characters we know, like Agatha Harkness, Black Panther, Inhumans, we introduced to them thanks to the Fantastic Four. Anyway, she was kind of like, the caretaker nanny for Franklin Richards. But anyway, she also, like in X-Men Evolution, she was instrumental in Scarlet Witch's training, back in the day. But they kind of played her, from my memory of her, because she wasn't like, not until like, WandaVision, she was played very like all over the place, but mostly kind of like a villainous nature, or just like riding the line, like neutral party kind of situation. You never know where she stands at, and she's always so vague with certain things, which she made a point about this in one of the later issues, where like, when Reed Richards comes to her help, she always liked to play vague with him just to mess with him, and then she also comments with how like she doesn't like him when she's on the other end of things. But I think some point along the way she's a little bit more of a ally to some people. Anyway, one in a sense like a magical disturbance. She uh goes to uh meet up with this detective in like the nearest precinct, where there's been like uh uh uh, uh a rash of homicides, at least a few homicides, where some people in like a serving occupation comes after their bosses of affluent means, and one of them being a server at this restaurant going after a rich person. And Wanda talks to this detective who's working on the case and mentions how, yeah, a long time ago during the medieval age, there was this young witch who cast this great spell against her, like to summon this demon to go after these affluent, people of power. And many people who summon this creature, often like do this similar thing. And somebody summoned this thing again here, and she soon comes to let them know, like, well, this creature kind of hops to person and never stays in one place. So she tells him, like, yeah, I got you here, and I knew it was already attached to you, but that's why I brought you already out here where nobody else is around, so it won't escape. It's attached to you. And he mentions, like, that can't be right, because, like, I don't feel nothing for my bosses or anything like that, and I don't really care. And it's like, yeah, you say that now, but it's gonna start going, like, feeding into those small insecurities. No matter how small it is, it ramps it up to 11. So she starts doing her finger thing,
phrasing,
and then tries to cast a spell to exorcise the demon. And in the process, while she's doing that, she's as she's making connections trying to eradicate this thing, she comes to realize something's wrong, not with the demon, but magic itself. So once she eradicates the demon, she goes back to Agatha to let her know, like, something's going on. There's something wrong with witchcraft. It's sick. I noticed it when I was doing my incantations to take care of this demon. So now she's going on this adventure trying to seek out what's the root cause of the sickness and possible eradication of witchcraft itself. So she goes to Greece to meet up with the Greek god of witchcraft, Hecate. And you're gonna see, like, there's some, I like this art too. Like, I would respect it if they would stick to just one art. I don't care which one of them, but as long as they make it consistent. I hate the whiplash of going like different art. There's probably some reasoning behind it, but I just prefer to have consistent art along the way when I'm reading a comic. So she goes to ask does she know anything about it? She doesn't know, but she's also, because she haven't been practicing magic in a long time, she content with running this kind of little small cafe on this Greek island. But she's also thought, like, oh, aren't you here to take care of this Minotaur problem? Like, Minotaur problem? What are you talking about? Oh, well, we've been, like, during nights, innocent people have been like killed by this uh, minotaur creature, and uh, the the Greek people have been sending officers, military personnel, mercenaries. None of them came back alive. And then Juana's like, don't you got like your local superhero or something like that? And usually many countries have at least one. And she mentions, yeah, we had like a one. It's kind of like our version of Captain America, but we just buried him yesterday. So uh when I was like, well, like, why didn't anybody call the Avengers? Well, that's what I thought. That's why you're here. So Wanda decides to go help deal with this Minotaur problem. Come to find out, this, because thanks to Wanda's power, she's very powerful at this point. She's not just casting uh bad luck hexes. She is like on, like, could easily be on par with somebody like Doctor Strange. But I love this art, and there's certain art that's really really good, and it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it could have stuck with this art too, where it can be like just all over the place weird. Given that you're dealing with magic, it's allowed room for that, where you can just like go Picasso on the panels if you wanted to. Wanda wakes up until nighttime and hunts down this thing. Come to realize, this isn't like the ancient Minotaur of ancient Greece. This, thanks to Wanda's magic, going over, like, putting the whammy on this thing. It's like, yeah, you're just the D list villain, Mamble, who somebody put like some kind of hex on you to make you this powerful ancient creature. But she didn't even have time to even question him, like, who did this, which she assumed was probably linked to whatever is making magic sick. But he just like so like distraught, like, oh my god, like I'm weak, know nothing now. So he runs off the side of the cliff and falls seemingly to his death. So Wanda's no closer to finding out what's going on. In the meantime, this mysterious dude in green, this Irishman, ends up killing Hecate, even though she's supposed to be like the Greek god of witches. But maybe because she hasn't been practicing magic for such a long time, who knows how long. But also the fact that witchcraft is being weakened, she couldn't put up much of a fight like she probably would have. But she also made like a note about how, like, her known relatives like Ares and Hercules, many other Greek gods and demigods who she knows that also were heroes and more often than not part of the Avengers, usually die and come back. I imagine she at some point gonna come back. So her next investigation leads Wanda to Ireland, Dublin, Ireland, where this mysterious, some supernatural effect is causing, cattle and crops to just mysteriously start going and dying. Things affecting the area is making like Ireland sick. So she goes to this the nexus point, and which happens to be at this local pub. And the owner is like giving her a crap. It's like, because whenever she's always clad in red in some level, and people just know her. And I think after the situation with House of M, which is the most notable story with Wanda, where she did the whole no more mutants things, or had like a huge mental breakdown because she wanted to have kids and everything like that, with WandaVision and Doctor Strange 2 uh, took inspiration from as part of their storylines. And after those events in the comics, she is for a long time have been known for that. It was like a worldwide, I don't think galaxy wide, but definitely worldwide effect that she caused. And so anytime she goes somewhere, like, hey, ain't she the Scarlet Witch? And it's not that she meet with hate, but it's just that she is just like, she wasn't, you don't want to be known, like, it's hard to say like you can't forever be known for that. If you do something very devastating, it was all fixed, you are known for that now. It's hard for anybody to not forget that, or at least it's hard for people to forget that. But as she's says she wanted to, like, she getting a hard time by the owner, is like, I don't want things smashed and anything like here. Some strange guy comes in and it's like, hey, don't give her a hard time, she is, and like, she's an Avenger, she, if she says something's going on, let her do her thing. So in terms of these like old spirits, it's like well, spirits, I don't know, it's like ghouls or something like that, come crashing into the pub, and Wanda's easily fighting them off. And she realized that, okay, we gotta go down this other dimensional pathway known as Witch's Road, which then you get another art, different art illustrations, which is more like, I don't know, it's like markery or chalky kind of thing, which is a fine art in itself. And then along the way, she bumps into her mother, Natalia Maximoff, who also had went by the name Scarlet Witch, who you learn also that she got her powers from her father, who went by the Scarlet Warlock. So it's from the Scarlet moniker passed down from another magic user to magic user, and they all went by Scarlet, either where the son or daughter Scarlet Witch or Scarlet Warlock. And of course, Agatha, warned her, like, hey, don't let her know anything who you really are, because she's obviously here for a purpose. That's why she's even here. She's probably came from like a different point in time, so you do not want her like getting off her game. Stick to the mission at hand and allow her do her thing, and she'll allow you to do your thing. So she just tells her first name, and don't let on that she's her daughter, even though she's starting to suspect something, because she just assumes that, oh, you must be some kind of distant relative. I mean, because I can tell just by like the way you dress and your eyes seem very has some familiar connection. You must be some ancient, some distant descendant of mine or something. So she's there for a purpose, to fight off these weird creatures while Wanda is going on her path. And once she did her job, she starts to fade away back to her own time in the past. And then as she's fading away, everything starts clicking for her, like, oh my god, I realized you're my daughter. And then she's gone. And now Wanda is reaching this road where she meets up with the guy who killed Hecate, who goes by his name is Dan or Dean, but he's go by the Emerald Warlock, this Irishman who has been on this kind of mission to kill off the ancestors of this ancient witch who thousands of years ago on Ireland, many thousands of years ago, when they it's probably around the time same age as maybe like the Vikings, not in the same area, but like probably around the same time period, but just in a different location. And in ancient Ireland, he, along with his two brothers and mother, who was a powerful witch, was trying to take over Ireland. And they was beaten and banished from the lands of Ireland. And so I think the mom was killed, but the brothers was banished. Emerald Warlock sought out power and to take his revenge against those who banished him, and Ireland itself was so strong, he ends up killing his own brothers, taking their power as his own, and went along this crusade and taking out descendants. I'm not sure how long he'd been doing it forever, but he probably just now started doing it, going after different descendants from the person who banished them a long time ago. And once because as long as that bloodline was going on, he was magically forbidden to even set foot on Ireland. He turns out to be that same guy who told that pub owner, he was in disguise, he told that pub owner to let Wanda do her own thing and blah blah blah, because he just wanted to see her in action to pretty much inspect her capabilities. And because he went after the last descendant, which turns out to be this kid in Africa who had some lineage to this ancient magical being. And so now he's able to set foot on Ireland. He was the cause of the Ireland's ill will. So he started to mess around with, he traps Agatha in some kind of mystical bubble. He starts sapping the life force of Wanda. All the while was doing the whole villain monologue thing, but little did he realize Wanda was leading him out of this thorny area where his magic was strongest, into an area where female witches' magic was strongest, and she regained control and started fighting back. But this didn't permanently destroy him. He just realized, okay, I'm going to just make a temporary retreat, but well, we're destined to go head to head, because he just explains to her this is just kind of experience, I'm a bad guy, you're a good person, you're just supposed to fight and stuff, we're arch enemies, I have my own goals, but I'm definitely gonna have to fight you, I'm a bad guy, it is what it is. So now she's still on a journey to trying to find the source of the sickness of witchcraft. One such adventure leads her to Spain, where she's been called, well, sometimes she's been called for assistance in magical issues, and sometimes she senses the problem itself, but she's called by a nun in Spain because there were, spirits. There's a curse where in this basement of this church there are these spirits that come after and torment anybody who goes down there and utters a word. And they try to send like a priest down there to exorcise the spirits, but since you need to talk when you're doing the exorcism, that priest was hit too. So Wanda goes down there and learns that a long time ago, women were burnt at the stake for being suspected of witchcraft. There's only one person who was actually a witch, but she took a vow of, went to be a nun, and all of them who were burnt at the stake, they were all nuns. But it was around the time they took a vow of silence as part of their ritual. But since these not conquistadors, but these supposed pious people, these people of authority, were accusing these nuns of suspected witchcraft, and since their vow of silence forbade them from actually speaking, they couldn't even say anything to defend themselves because their faith in God was, their faith in God was, was put above all else. Even in the fact that trying to defend themselves, they put that, their God above of even that. So they was even burnt at the stake for it. But their spirits was restless because they was unjustifiably murdered, and those people who accused them, whenever they died, their spirits was trapped there too. So they're kind of like roaming, ghouls, or spirit ghouls. And on the little way down there, because Wanda kept silent all the way through, and she just has to, mystically bear witness of how this all transpired, all the way taking down all these, ghouls. And once Wanda, because restless spirits just have, they're restless because they have like unresolved issues that need to be resolved that they couldn't do in life. Once Wanda resolved that, their spirits was able to be set free and go to heaven, while those people who burned them at the stake or had something to do with them burning at the stake, they was all, I imagine, sent to hell. Then there's one issue where it's probably my least favorite issue is want to go into Paris and about helping out this low rent Warren Worthington the third, this discount angel, who's like a local superhero of Paris, and he's lovesick. He lost his beloved in like a car accident. He couldn't find a will to continue his superhero work. So Wanda, using mystical means, which is a great, she's starting to age a little bit because she's using so much magic, a very powerful magic, just to bring in the spirit of his beloved to reassure him that one day they will be reunited. Please, buck up. Everything's okay. I still love you, but you gotta live your life and do what you need to do. Blah blah blah. That was resolved. I didn't really care for this issue, and it's kind of like a waste of time. It could have skipped this entire thing. It didn't really service the overall narrative in any way. Neither you can say other stuff. Well, no. Well, neither you can say the last issue, but I thought that was like a sweet issue. This one, I guess you can call it romantic, but it's like it was boring to me. Then Wanda goes to Hong Kong, where she speaks with the mother of this uh of this witch called August of Wu, who's supposed to be like the coral witch of the shore or something like that. Then these play on colors will, you know, lead into something in the end. So the this witch, who's kind of like the superhero of Hong Kong, for like, you know, the mystical means, who has long since, you know, perished fighting evil, but she left a daughter, this woman's granddaughter, who Wanda is looking to speak with, because there was some issue going on in Hong Kong with this old warlock named Dark Tarjay or Taru Tor something, and she meets up with this cop who will go by the moniker of the Wu, who uses her mystical knowledge along with, because her father was a cop and her mother was it was kind of like a British cop or something. It's kind of like the Constantine, I guess, but she got like a, you know, cop father who was British but worked for I'm not sure it was like he worked for Hong Kong police, or he was just like a British cop, but he met up with this woman and they had a kid, and she just kind of grew up to be a cop like her dad, but used her knowledge of mysticism like her mother in order to fight off, you know, not only regular evil bad guys, but also bad guys of the mystical means. And she enchants her guns to fight off mystical bullets to take out, mystical threats. And she kind of like hits on Wanda a little bit, because you kind of tell by certain dialogue, like, you want to grab a cup of coffee or something like that. So they go to this local park or pond or something like that, and you learn about this, ancient being who pretty much took power by, people come to him for like favors. It's kind of like a mystical godfather. And I'm trying to remember, like, because there was like ill things he's done, because it's not like it's like, oh, you do something for me, like I expect something in return, like you see, the people who owe him a favor do something bad or anything like that, but he's holding like ancient spirits hostage, or feeding off of them or something like that. But in any rate, Wanda and Wu, because he was probably responsible of the death of Wu's mom, and Wu helped Wanda in order to take this guy down. While Wanda fighting off this guy's underlings, Wu went after the man himself. And despite her efforts trying to use what little magic she knows, because she hasn't really become an expert yet in it, she's still relatively a novice, she couldn't really deal with this guy who has vast knowledge and expertise in mysticism. And I kind of like this, where he's blocking all her mystical bullets and everything like that. It's like, haha, you can't do nothing to me. Your magical powers are weak compared to mine. And she was thinking, like, okay, fires off another round, but it wasn't a mystical bullet, it was a regular bullet, which is only, you could say, like, well, his mystical barrier should have protected him from a regular projectile irregardless, but I guess he just put up a barrier meant for mystical purposes and not for regular purposes, even though in most cases it's like a, well, I guess you can say like all other times we see mystical people using barriers, is a barrier that could easily be cast to deflect all kinds of things. But if you only have knowledge of a person throwing mystical attacks, your mindset will be, okay, I'll put just like a barrier to block mystical things because that's the only thing they use. But regardless, it's kind of like, well, it's like a barrier is a barrier. You should block all kinds of things. But in any rate, his barrier didn't account for her actually firing a regular bullet. So it bypassed this mystical barrier and shot him in the heart, killed him immediately. So that was the end of that threat. One goes back to New York. She's seeing this psychologist or therapist named Dr. Grant. And this is probably my favorite issue out of this 15 issue run, where, and pay attention to the panels. That will come back in a minute. Wanda is having like a sit down with this doctor who Wanda's, because Wanda, I kind of like this because Wanda, like many other heroes, needs to see a therapist badly, but she and Bucky, and I'm thinking about the whole situation with them with like MCU and stuff like that too. But it's just like what we know about these two in particular people, even though all superheroes probably need, a decent amount of therapy, these two in particular definitely need some therapy, especially Wanda, because given her history of having a mental breakdown that affected the world over. She, takes a moment to have like a sit down, and of course she makes her payment to the doctor, and she mentions about how like she's taking care of the situation with this sickness and magic, and she's concerned about that, but she's taking a day to like, just have a nice little stroll. It's a nice day, woo woo. And the doctor points out how like, hey, you're kind of lying. It's like, what are you talking about? Well, you, from my notes here, you had like a husband, the Vision, who was ripped apart in like a previous attack, and you have yet to go to the Avengers Mansion to try to collect him and try to reassemble. Even though you're not together anymore, he was your husband. So what's taking you so long to deal with that? You also had a relationship with Simon Williams, the Wonder Man, and his consciousness is merged with Rogue. You at no point try to separate them. You have the capability to do so. I'm not sure, I'm not sure how that even came to pass at the time. So it probably has some kind of previous situation not familiar with. From all I knew, Rogue never had to, from what I remember, I never recall Wonder Man's consciousness merging, in the same body as Rogue for some reason. I don't know, I'm sure. But then he brings up about Wanda's two kids, Wiccan and Speed, and it's like, when's the last time you saw your kids? Given the fact that she mentions about how the overly complicated situation that was, where they didn't exist before, but through some means, some soul of a demon or something like that, and just bringing these kids into actual reality and stuff like that. But she didn't actually raise the kids because they was already teenagers when they actually came into existence. So they have their own thing going on, and they don't really need a mother to look after them. Even though you could argue at this point in time, I'm pretty sure they're slightly adults in current comics, because I remember reading like a Loki comic in a couple of weeks ago where Wiccan, and because Wiccan's like a homosexual character, one of the homosexual superheroes that we know, and he's had like a relationship with this character called Hulkling. And Loki and these two cross paths along Loki's adventure dealing with this kind of cursed object that he's trying to locate. And but at this point in time in 2016, they're still teenagers. So Wanda really didn't, sit down to actually spend time with her children. And he points out that it's like, yeah, because Wanda also brings up how like she, doesn't like, people having to come in and protect her or doing things for her, because it feels like, kind of insulting her intelligence, which she does not like that. But he points out that you're trying to keep busy. You're trying to like, all these spinning plates that you're dealing with, and you're trying to avoid having to deal with something that's probably difficult to deal with, because you actually have to face it. So Wanda later on goes to the park and actually calls upon her two boys and actually had a nice little sit down at the park and hung out with her sons. Realizing that, yeah, Doctor's right. Like, I need to have despite how hard it is and like the complication that was with them coming into being, she actually needs to have some time with her sons. So I thought that was just a very nice moment. There's no dialogue, even though I kind of wish you can just see them come in. They just boop, they're there, and you don't even see her sit down. It's just like could have used an extra panel, her sitting down, these guys coming through a portal or something, and then them just sitting down having just like a picnic or something. Next day she comes back and it turns out Dr. Grant is really like the villain called Ringmaster, who has like a power of hypnotism. And Wanda points out, yeah, like I had a feeling that, yeah, there's moments that kind of clued me in. And Ringmaster use subtle suggestions to try to get Wanda to commit, unbeknownst to her, to commit thefts for him. That was his secret payments. But as you saw in the previous panel, you see like the little swirl thing on the ground. He kind of looks like a rug, but it's actually, him doing his thing. Just very subtle things. I have to go back because like I see these swirl patterns here and there, and I was like, wait a minute. And you see the swirl patterns, even on the ground, or even when they're talking, you see it like subtly in the back. And I was very clever illustrations. I really love this issue. But Grant pointed out, like, well, if you knew all that, why didn't you, do something about it immediately? Wanda points out, well, it's like, you're faking it the whole time. You was actually a very good therapist. It's like, talking through all this stuff, you had some good insight that like it helped me out a little bit. Even though I still gonna have you arrested, like I do want to point out that I am grateful for you for the time you took, the time we had. You helped me immensely. There was no big superhero fight or anything like that. It was just a nice little. I wish we see a little sidetrack here. It was like a thing a few years ago in DC Comics. It's called like Heroes Were Born, I think. It's this little mini event where you initially went on the premise of certain superheroes going to therapy, but it turns into some freaking murder mystery thing that wasn't even any good. It was very on false pretenses, and it was crap on top of that. And it's just like, I kind of wish they just kind of just kept it as a little thing where superheroes go to have a sit down with, because in Marvel Comics you have Doc Samson, who is like a part of the Incredible Hulk lore, who has like Hulk powers himself, but he's called Doc Green. Well, no, he's not. Well, I think one of his aliases is Doc Green, but they also kind of called Bruce Banner that. Anyway, he is a well-known therapist, just like Harley Quinn is a very well-known therapist, and he could have like a. I would have, if I was part of like the like Marvel Comics, industry building, and like I go to the editor in chief and it's like, hey, I got this cool idea for a Doc Samson miniseries where he just him sitting down, have a conversation with certain superheroes and try to treat them in therapy, and actually have a try to help them with their own separate problems, because each one could be separate from all whatever is going on with what's going on with their own little solo adventures and whatnot, completely separate from all that stuff. It's just just a random point in time where Doc Samson sits down with Scarlet Witch, or Reed Richards, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Captain America, etc., etc., etc. And this is probably like maybe like a 5 7-issue series kind of thing, not that very long. It could be like short, sweet, to the point. You could probably have a few, because some people want like a few punchy moments. You can have like a few that a couple of that in between, or at least as they're talking with Doc, they go over certain moments in the past of certain adventures and not what's going on currently. They bring it up to Doc and give them something to like noodle over in order to like try to manage it, not necessarily fix it, but manage it, because that's the whole point of therapy, is trying to give you the tools in order to maybe not necessarily fix it, but like help you better handle anger or fear or insecurities or whatever. That would be like a very cool like book, or at least a series of books. And of course, like, get some kind of help from an actual therapist in order to like make sure it's like closely accurate as possible, so it won't be feeling like I'm just talking out of your butt. Next one is kind of like a tie-in to what went on during this time during Civil War II, around the time when like the Inhumans was all the rage at the time, and one such person called Ulysses, who had the inhuman power of precognition. It's kind of like a Minority Report, but with like a superpower, where Ulysses was able to see events, whereas not necessarily like hardcore, because for several adventures it seems like, oh, it's pretty accurate, like Thanos showing up in a particular time that they was able to be able to like nip that in the bud very fast, or when these monster creatures was about to like start attacking, they was able to nip that in the bud pretty quickly. But it's becoming like a little bit drastic now, where it's like, instead of Captain America and Iron Man going at it, now is Carol Danvers and Tony Stark going at it this time, where you feel like now people's taking sides all over again, and it was a very clunky, cheap way to try to Because I think around this time the Civil War movie was coming out, and Civil War was like a big deal again. So superheroes was taking sides on on Tony Stark's side, where it's like, hey, we're not 100% sure that this is always 100% accurate, and on top of that, because even if it's like 99% accurate, it's still that 1% chance, whereas that person that we're prematurely arresting might not actually do it, and so we can't start arresting people on stuff they actually did not even do yet, or if they do it at all. I mean, I'm glad they kind of brought this up because I did read it. I might cover, because next year I want to cover Civil War and Civil War 2 along with the movie some point next summer maybe. But it's just like Carol is just like gung-ho about using this kid in order to make sure, like, hey, we gotta stop these bad guys from making things worse, for doing whatever it is they trying to come up with. We can, like, nip it in the bud so we don't come in after the fact just to clean up. Of course, we learned that Quicksilver is on Team Iron Man, but you learn here from Scarlet Witch, who isn't really taking part necessarily in this because she's doing his own adventure thing, but she's actually agreeing with what's going on with Carol. Even though around this time, Rhodey was killed in the fight against Thanos when they tried to preemptively stop him, and She-Hulk was hurt severely in the process. So Quicksilver and Wanda at the time, like, say, like mentions to Quicksilver, like, yo, I'm learning stuff about our family. I saw our mother and stuff like that, and like, she's trying to tell him all this stuff. He doesn't really care all that much. It's like who cares who our parents were? It's like, whereas Magneto or Magna, or like, Django, or this other lady who thought they were their parents would turn out to be their aunt and uncle. And because it doesn't matter to him, like, the past is the past to him, and they're all that's left of their family for all he's concerned with. And he's trying to rush her out to try to help with this war, but she doesn't really want to take part in it. And they get into kind of like a big argument because he's treating her like, because he mentions, like, I'm not that little girl that you had to, like, who was unsure about her powers and that you had to, be strong for. I'm an adult now. I can handle myself, and I don't want to be treated, like somebody who has like a mental deficiency. And even though, like, Quicksilver didn't mean to do any of that stuff. He cares for her, but he's trying to, like, he's still doing it though. And not realizing that she has her own opinions, she has her own feelings, she needs to handle certain things. There's certain things that's important to her, and that he can't just keep dragging her to wherever things that matter to him. So they had this kind of big fight in her room, and then so he ends up just leaving. So there's a little moment where they had to tie into all that at the time. So then Wanda got this psychic, or at least mystical, ping, where this ancient Japanese warlock, this hero of Japan, just recently was well, it wasn't like a normal pass away kind of situation. It was like, no, it was straight up murder, and it was kind of like a reverberating mystically, around the world. I'm not sure why she only came. Could have, somebody like Dr. Strange would have probably registered that too. I guess he was busy. So she came to Japan, and this person was called the Aoi Master. Aoi being Japanese for blue-green. another color representation, and she starts to speak with people that knew this guy, and she goes to this retired cop who's pretty much like the guy's Commissioner Gordon, about the AOE master, and see if like there's anybody that he had like a grudge with, they finally took their revenge and stuff like that. And he, along with the love interest, who's pretty much like the Vicky Vale, because she actually is a reporter, and also the love interest. But you know, there wasn't any because he knew he was like getting up there in years, and he never had any children to pass on his knowledge to, because mystical beings give birth to children. More often than not, they have either they become mystically empowered themselves, or they carry the gene to the next generation after them, which more than likely will have the mystical connection there. But either way, that's tends how it goes. But this guy never had any children, and he didn't want to burden this woman with all that kind of responsibility. Through his own reasons. But all the while, Wanda's going to these people, she's followed by this fox, unbeknownst to her. And the AOE master spirit, because he was killed, it wasn't like a natural cause. He went to this kind of fox thing. And Japanese, like the fox is a mythical component to it, where they kind of carry the spirit of someone long past that help guide people. If you play Ghost of Tsushima, you see those kind of things there. Or if you watch that Hellboy animated movie where there was like a mystical fox involved. I can't remember what that thing is called. It's not Blood and Iron, it was another one. But I'm going to review those this Halloween, so look out for those. Then she goes to talk with this former enemy of AOE Master. Now, each one brings up that he has no heirs, he didn't have any kind of apprentices, and knowing that he's reaching an endpoint in his life of his superhero career, he want to make sure he settled things with his enemies one way or the other, to try to make sure there was nobody to try to go out and seek revenge on anybody that he knew after he passed. One such guy that Wanda spoke to in this Japanese prison mentions that he had harbored no ill will to this guy. They had a mutual respect, but he sealed off this guy's connection to mysticism. It's kind of like his Baramordo in a way. So he couldn't tap into mystical powers because he had like aspirations to be like the next Doctor Doom, if you can believe it. But AOE Master kind of nipped that in the bud. Then Wanda visited one last person, which is pretty much like is it Welcher or Watcher or something like that? That's a doggone name. Miles Betchley. That was Welcher or something. And it's pretty much like his Alfred in a way. And it turns out he was the guy who killed his killed the guy he was serving for. to try to, uh, he kind of made a deal with this Oni demon, just Japanese demon called the Oni, in order to steal the power of this guy who he kind of sought after. But then, while he was also following Wanda through this whole entire thing, and along the way, he ends up, I suspect, killing each one that Wanda starts to talk to. Because he absorbed all of them in the gullet of this little Oni monster he turned into. And when Wanda kind of purified the water of the river that there was like on the bridge over, blessed water demons isn't like a good mix. So once he was destroyed, the spirits of the people that he absorbed, were released. And now things were resolved, and his murder was resolved. The spirit inside the fox, not sure, it just became the fox, because along the way he's like, losing a bit of himself in this fox. But now that everything is resolved, and it's like either his spirit was released from the fox, or he just became the fox itself. But everything's resolved. Now she's going back to trying to search for answers so far as her family, what happened, because the High Evolutionary was a major component in what happened to her and her brother. She talked with this priest along the way, going to her homeland, trying to find her people, because they're Romani, they're always on the move. Since it's been 20 years, it couldn't really, exactly pinpoint where they might be held up. The priest finally lets them know that what the closest person they might know happens to be her mom's former, essentially, sidekick, and had words with her, which she ends up leading Wanda to her aunt, who had second, or I think second degree burns. It turns out when Wanda and Pietro were little, and not High Evolutionary, but somebody went after them, because the High Evolutionary gave Wanda and Pietro, who were babes at the time, back to, because probably had a soft spot or something like that, felt sorry in a way for them, so they get them back to the closest next of kin, which happens to be the brother of Natalia, along with his wife. And some other situation happened with it, they were attacked when Wanda and Pietro was a little older, and they were seemingly thought dead. But she made it through, but she suffered, some burns. Wanda's absolutely thrilled, over the moon to see her, even though she's so used to calling her mom. It's kind of off-putting to her to call her aunt. So they had a dialogue about, the past and everything like that, and what really went down, so she can finally have some closure about what happened. And also learn through here that the uncle turns out to be a bad guy, and I'm not sure if mental instability runs in the family or something like that, but he kind of went nuts, and at a certain point, not sure what adventure that might be. It might have been a very old 80s comic, more than likely, because Quicksilver was wearing his very old costume at that time, so it had to be that. And he uses what little magic he had to make these kind of very turn people into puppets. because he's like a puppeteer by trade. And he captured Wanda and Pietro, turned into puppets, but he got defeated, possibly killed, because, she mentions to the aunt, like, well, he died. It's depending on your point of view where it was good or not. He asked Wanda, like, did he die well? Like, it's like, well, it depends on your definition. But then all of a sudden, out of freaking nowhere, some demons possess the former sidekick and the aunt. Wanda fought them off thanks to, surprisingly, Agatha Harkness comes back out of nowhere. I guess released from the Witch's Road, because we haven't seen her in a long while. She just, once she got trapped in that bubble, I guess that's where she stayed. Never understood how she got out, where she been. That part was confusing to me. I kind of wish they kind of cleared that up. They kind of just forgot about her. And like, it's hardly, things that's been consistent along the way. It's like there's a few things that's been inconsistent. But also, the mom spirit showed up, was planning on possessing the aunt first, but the demons kind of came out of nowhere, and got there first. But they banished the demons. The mom healed her sister-in-law of her burns, and explained to Wanda that she has to go back to the Witch's Road, but actually go all the way to the end, because she never went all the way to the end, and where she'll find what she was seeking. Along the way, she's fighting off all these little creatures, and along the way, and it's just the main threat was this kind of this ancient being called Chaos, which is kind of like the death to Order's life, where they, like, you can't destroy it, but it's trying to tip the scales, and that's what's affecting witchcraft, because there's this ancient, very ancient being for all of witchcraft of every spectrum of many planets of this universe, that many mystical beings of all races adhere to. And this chaotic creature is, ailing her, or it, and that's causing an infection of the witchcraft. And Wanda, Agatha, and Natalia are all fighting off these creatures, and also fighting off these aimless ones, which is opposite of the mindless ones, where, unlike the mindless ones, where there's just kind of like brainless grunts that follow wherever order is given by Dormammu, aimless ones actually have brains, but doesn't fight with any order. They're chaotic, so you can't predict how they will fight. And this is also affecting, like, Wanda, because the more magic she's trying to fight off with, it's causing her to age again. But she managed to reach to the end where she sees the ancient being who is the controller of witchcraft itself. But it's kind of like a voluptuous female with, like, tentacles coming out the back and a giant hand as a head. So, sure. But it's being bound by this chaotic creature. It's pretty much in the form like a black dragon. So, much like Hocus Pocus or the Charm ones, these three witches combine to use order magic in order to fend off this creature and put it in its place. You can't destroy it because it's part of life itself, but in order to bring balance to mysticism. And of course, I love this little line from Agatha's where it's like, doing the whole Witches 3 situation. She does double boil in trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. And it's like, Natalia's like, Agatha, sorry, couldn't resist. I thought that gave me a giggle, because it's like, you gotta throw in little witch jokes. The only thing that would probably made it funnier if she does this whole I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. It's like, yeah, throwing a good classic here and there. But they need something to contain their order magic, or at least a hex magic, to keep this thing bind. And so Wanda's mother summoned Pietro, using his kinetic energy he produces as he's running, to contain this thing. And of course, he picks up on the fact that that's their mother, and he's happy to see her and everything like that. So I'm glad that Pietro's here to actually witness this, to witness his mother too. So he didn't stay long. He's only there for a short while, just long enough to help contain this creature. But since the goddess of witchcraft is, ailing and near death, Natalia decides to sacrifice herself in order to heal her. But leaves Wanda with this little notion where it's like Wanda's promising to seek revenge on the High Evolutionary for what what he's done, and she, and the mom points out, like, it wasn't the High Evolutionary, it was your father. And she's like, what? And right at that moment, the mom not only sends Wanda and Agatha back to the mortal realm, she brought Agatha back to the land of the living. She's alive now. She's not a ghost anymore. But also, Wanda's little issue with aging, all that is reset. So she doesn't have to worry about, like, aging prematurely. So now she want to know, like, you would think, like, the next step would be, like, trying to find the dad, but it's probably in a different adventure. Not sure if that's going to be dealt with, and I'm probably sure it's partly dealt with, but probably haven't read that yet. But the last issue, is another exorcism. This is back to the art style I kind of wish remained consistent throughout this entire adventure, where Wanda is exorcising this demon who is going after the bloodline of this Cuban man called Senor Violet Warlock. And Wanda's dealing with that, which is never, because she's trying to find out who this specific demon is to want to just go after this family. Never figured that one out. You assume that at first it might have been Valletta himself, because he wasn't like all the way good, but he wasn't all the way evil either, because he grew up at a time, when, like, Cuba was like, had, like, tyranny and corruption and greed run amok, and he often, he was like the Constantine of the time. And this creature, you never know who this thing is. But you also see the Emerald the Warlock, who probably had a hand in that demon coming into fruition. Probably gonna see, probably like the most, if you got Green Goblin for Spider-Man, Red Skull for Captain America, it would make sense to have like give like Wanda an arch enemy and Emerald Warlock. Seems pretty dope of a arch enemy for her. But then she ends up uh going back to the Avengers, uh, ready to being reinstated because she dealt with what she needed to deal with personally. So now she's ready and set to you know be a team player, and that's where the end. Scarlet Witch, ooh, odd, but I like it. Is actually really good. There's certain issues where you could have just kind of tossed because they didn't serve the overall narrative. It's just like her going on investigations, just random investigations. Either make that each one consistent, but actually have some kind of through line. That'd be great. Or just stick to the crux of the issue. But I like there's like some running thing with allies or adversaries that have not just a basic color name, but a variation of the color name, or it's not just Red Witch, she's Scarlet Witch. It's not Green Warlock, it's Emerald Warlock. And have like her allies, the Wu being the Coral Witch, not Pink Witch. Or kind of wish the AoE master had some kind of apprentice or lineage or somebody like that to take up the mantle, and you have like the AoE, second generation of AoE master, something like that to like gather together. That would have been really dope, and to have like some kind of Wanda and her own team of mystics to fight off mystical adversaries that she leads. That would be pretty dope. That would have been awesome to have. They, this story kind of set the groundwork for that, and I kind of wish they kind of done something with, because it seemed really, really dope. But anyway, that was Scarlet Witch. Last X-Men solo story that I'll be handling. Now, in a couple weeks from now, I think I'll be getting into the X-Men team up stuff. Now we got like a good handle on at least like the big deal names. We can get into team up stuff. Because I kind of wish like the MCU would handle it like the same way I did these series of reviews, where you go over each one, so you get to know. It's same way how you set up all the MCU heroes from the first two phases. So when like they come up as a team, you already know each one, their motivations and what have you. So tomorrow I will be doing a YouTube tier list of all the solo X-Men stuff, and how I feel about each one that I reviewed so far. And then after I'm done with all the team up books, I'll rank all the X-Men books from that point. And then getting back to my regular scheduled comic book reviews. Well, actually, what I should do, because as far as like that, let me look through the where is it? Where is it? Yeah, I actually think it's probably like a better idea. At least until November. I'm gonna put a pause on the X-Men stuff because there's at least I'll wait until November to go back into the X-Men team books, because there's a couple of comics I want to review for Halloween. A Constantine one, Blade, and Hellblaze's Lucifer that I want to cover for the month of Halloween. But yeah, I mean, think that'll be best. Then in November, I get back to the X-Men team up books as much as I can. Then probably take another break for December. Well, I don't think I need to take another break for December because Christmas I don't have any comic books for Christmas to cover. Well, I might have a couple, but if they're short, they might be short. But anyway, we'll see what we'll do. But as of right now, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of the Scarlet Witch, her abilities. Is there any comics that you're reading? Because there's a current one that's running that's supposed to be 10 issues that I was initially wanting to read, but I haven't, got to the final issue yet. So maybe next year I'll read it and cover it for the channel. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit as I cover Dark Phoenix. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of Scarlet Witch. Definitely read up some stuff here with her. She's very good. But leave a comment below. Like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. And I'll see you all later. Peace.